Hello and welcome to DTE. Today I'm talking about our training package which we offer to new trainees coming to learn to become driving instructors. The DTE-Elite training package is a complete package that covers not only the statutory elements as required by the DVSA, but also we look at many aspects of the business elements. One of the things that we found was missing within all training courses is they just cover the bare essentials for the Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3. Becoming a driving instructor is far more than that. We found that people becoming driving instructors are worried about what to do when they get pupils, about training routes, where they're going to deliver lessons, etc., etc. And we found that it can be a very, very lonely place, particularly for brand new driving instructors. But not with our solutions, because we keep you supported all the way through. I've done plenty of videos on why many instructors decide to go alone. They go alone because they already feel alone with their franchise, so why not go alone on their own? And we try really hard to make sure that you have a complete training package and you're certainly not left alone throughout. Now, one of the reasons why I've introduced something called live coaching sessions, which I'll come to later on. As you work for your training, one of the things we do have is the reflective journal or the reflective log. The reflective log is something that the DVSA have been looking to make compulsory for a number of years. They probably will very, very soon. Actually, the motions are in place now to actually make it a legal entity, so it will be legal. Something I've used for a long time. The reflective log is nothing to be worried about. You know, nobody's expecting you, unless you want to write reams and reams of stuff, etc. But basically, it's a tick sheet, etc., for you and your trainer to decide, you know, how have you got on, what could you do better, etc., etc. You know, we all write at different levels, we all produce stuff at different levels, so that's absolutely fine, really. But it's an idea so you can track your progress and your trainer can track your progress. And eventually, of course, it'll be handed over to the examiner. The examiner will have a quick flick through and see that you've covered all the elements required, etc. So it's going to make things much easier. Your trainer will cover the reflective log with you. And if you've any questions, of course, well, use one of the new live coaching sessions which we've done. From previous videos I've done, I give you a lot more information on the Part 1, 2 and 3. This isn't really about this. This is really covering what we as a training company offer for you. So the Part 1, we know about the number of questions, etc., and the hazard perception test. And we use something called Theory Test Pro, which is an app for the driving instructor. We have full access to this app. We give you full access to this app. Be a little cautious here. Lots of schools advertise and say they give you an app, but many of them give you what they call the introduction to the app, which means that you don't get full access. When you do log on, you'll get messages pop up asking if you want to pay 10, 15, 20 pounds for the full access, of which, you know, etc. The schools, by the way, do make a commission on this. We decided we're not going to do that. We actually pay for each and every person to have full access. We're not interested in that sort of thing. Same thing goes for learners as well. Many of the learners don't have the full access to the app. They just have a partial app, but we give our learners full access as well. You know, it's part and parcel of what we do. So you've got a full access. It is by far the best system we've used. I've used other systems in the past, but this one really does cover, you know, the DVSA syllabus. It's really good with the video clips for the hazard perception test. You have unlimited access to it and unlimited use. You can use it at 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever you want, etc. And you can do as many mock tests as you want as well. And I certainly advise you to do lots of mock tests. Make sure that you're ready when you go for the driving test. When you actually go for your Part 1, you know that you'll pass it. Not a question of you hope you'll pass it. You know, you've already done 10, 20, 30 mock tests, so you know you can pass it. And that's the system which we use. Part two causes a bit of confusion, really. Part two is not about us teaching you to drive. I've seen many schools or many trainers who come back and go, oh, the trainee's going to need hundreds of hours, because they try to get them to learn a standard. They don't understand the thing of this. You have been driving for probably 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, however long. During that time, you have acquired good skills, observational skills, advanced skills. You have acquired them. Yes, you might have one or two bad habits, but the skills that you have, the observation, the staying alive skills, are far more beneficial than things like maybe the way you do not hold the steering wheel exactly how some trainers would like you to hold it. By the way, that's a total myth. You do not have to hold your hands at 10 to 2 or quarter to 3 and all this. You do not have to pull and push your steering wheel, as some of the trainers will tell you, etc., etc. It's not part of a test. It never has been. Like many things, you are marked on your safety. Is what you did safe? Fine. However you did it doesn't matter in a sense, as long as it is what is called safe. So we cover part two, and what we do is we go through normally about 10 hours, done as 2-hour sessions. So we'll normally do 5 2-hour sessions, and we cover each of the elements of the test. The first test session in car, we'll look at part 2 tests, what's expected of you, the routines. We'll look at some of the typical bad habits. You probably have a demonstration. But more and more, we're looking at introducing some of the routines and some of the things that we do need you to change. Over the years, of course, you probably signal. Every time you move off, mirror, mirror, signal. That's basically we were told. Mirror, signal, manoeuvre. And again, now you'll be taught to question that signal. Do you need to signal if there is nobody there? And people say, oh, well, what if? But you'll be talked about that. You'll be talked about how you get your learner to really look around and to look properly. And if they look properly and there is nobody there, then when they don't signal, they're telling themselves and the examiner, of course, I know there's nobody there, so I don't need to signal. More of that will be explained on that. Things like block gear changing. Of course, when I first drove the car, I had 4 speeds, and we used to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way. You had to do it that way, etc. Whereas now, of course, with 5, 6, 7, and sometimes 8-speed cars, of course, it is not always necessary. So we'll look at those sorts of things as well. The second session, we'll probably look at the manoeuvres. There are lots of manoeuvres which you need to go over. These are all the manoeuvres you need to teach the learner. So you'll go over them. It's not a question of teaching you the manoeuvres. Basically, you will give a demonstration to your instructor of 1 or 2 of the manoeuvres, and your instructor might give you a demonstration and point out some of the things like the additional observations. In my experience, most people do the manoeuvres quite satisfactory with extremely good accuracy. Normally the observations are what we need to do a bit of work on. We need to talk about, okay, you've got an advanced sense of observation, you can make quick look all round observation, but you need to sort of slow that down because you're going to demonstrate this to a learner. So you might be showing your learner how you're looking, at the front and to the side and behind, and you will sort of, in a sense, I suppose, exaggerate those looks in order to demonstrate your learner. So we'll go all the way through, etc. Third session looks at faster driving roads, dual carriageway, rural roads, etc. And if it's accessible to your test centre and accessible in the time of the lesson, motorways, Motorways are used quite a lot. Not down here in Cornwall, we don't have one. But certainly in Southampton, where we do a lot of work, etc. Motorways would be included in the test, so we'll look at that. City and town driving's next. That'll be on the 4th session, looking at things like the pedestrian crossings and things like that. And they're just talking of the routings, etc. there. So we're looking at that. The 5th session will be looking at a mock test, really, and putting it all together. And if you need any remedial work or any requirements, then it will be discussed at that time. The sessions, as I said, are not about teaching to drive, more enhancing your skills and experience. So during a session, you may be shown the manoeuvres, shown what you want, told and discussed about the observational, but you'll go away with your car and you will be expected to practice them. I always say most of the learning takes place between those sessions. Most of the learning goes on then. It's when you go out specifically with your car, practicing manoeuvres or rural roads, etc., and practicing that routines. These routines and things have to become habitual. They have to become second nature. Now, it's not just about driving. Yes, it's very going to help you driving, but remembering when you teach a learner, you'll need to help your learner with routines, and you need to be able to teach your learner to do things the way you do them. When you become an instructor, you'll be watching your learner, and again, you will watch through the routines, the mirror, the signal, the position, the speed, the look. Again, more of that on that later in your training. So it's very important you establish these at the beginning. One of the biggest problems I have with training is people try to turn the training on and off. That means when they turn up for a training session, they try and use the maneuvers, and they try and use the routines, and they try and do everything as you would want them to. But literally when they leave the car park, when they go off on their own, they go back to the old ways and they don't practice it. One brilliant scenario of this, I remember picking up way back now, a few years ago now, 2 trainees, both happened to be van drivers for parts companies, and so coincidental, I picked them both up on the same day, and they came to me. One of them took to it and practiced their routines in between sessions, and when they were driving their van, lots and lots of miles by the way, so a huge amount of practice, etc., they practice using these routines, and they practice it, or when they had to reverse into somewhere, they would use the observational. The other one wouldn't. The other one was absolutely saying to me, oh, in real driving, David, you can't drive like that. I would never get my work done. I would never get it done. The reality was the other one was getting more work done, was getting things done better, etc. One of them passed, and the other one failed the first test, and then sat down and thought, what am I going to have to do? And then decided then, oh, I'm going to really have to go and change things, etc. I had interesting experience with a taxi driver once, a lady taxi driver who wasn't one of my trainees, came to me, a colleague recommended, because she just would not practice the way during her normal driving, saying, you can't drive a taxi like that, I've got too much work to do. I actually offered to pay for her training if she adopted the system we were talking about during her taxi driving, and if they didn't actually improve the amount of work that she did. And she went off, she accepted the challenge, and she came back to me and she said, I don't believe this. She said, all my passengers are telling me how better it is having a female driver, she said, because you drive better than the male drivers. Now, she knew it was nothing to do with her being female, just that she was offering better driving. She found her tips went up, and yes, she found she could actually cover more work simply by using the routines and simply by being more proud. But there it is. So you need to practice between sessions. You need to make sure you set time. Well, basically, you don't have to do it at time. If you go into the shops, you drive this way. If you're going to school, you're going to work, wherever you're going, you practice these ways. You become. I did it. It was difficult. I will admit. I used to drive to work, and I used the mirror signal routine. I would try it, and it took a while to get in. But here we are. Okay, double successful there, and we're on to part 3. Now, okay, for many years we had a part 3 where basically you took 40 hours of tuition, and during those 40 hours you would have to learn 10 preset tests. Preset tests that were delivered to an examiner, or, first of all, your instructor and examiner who would pretend to be a learner. Well, it wasn't typical. You would learn the faults, etc., etc. You would learn the set routines on how to repair them. But in real life, when you got out there as an ADI, you had no clue what you were doing, and you almost had to start learning all over again. At last, it's changed. We're now using this far better test, etc., where you will do the test with a real learner, hopefully taking one of your learners along. And it's a far better test. It does require you to be better trained, which is something I was pleased about, because of course this is where my skill lays, etc. So we offer a much more holistic or all-round training thing. You will get in-car practical sessions. You will get the new online coaching sessions I'm talking about. We want to talk about classroom training. You will get not too much classroom training. Don't worry. I'm not going to sit in a classroom lots of hours, etc. It's just really one session we want you to do. You do observational sessions where you'll sit in the back of your instructor or an instructor and you'll observe their lessons, and they're skilled in pointing out things like when I'm watching learners and how they're setting the aims of the lessons and things. And then you will actually deliver lessons yourself to the learners where your trainer will observe the sessions at. Really, really valuable, and I don't think there's no better way than preparing for this holistic approach. So you've got the theoretical sessions. You actually learn to not only watch people do it, but you actually also get to practice them yourself. So I think you agree this is the best way to do it. You cannot, in my opinion, just simply read the books and go and sit the test, etc. Now, in order to do this, of course, the DVSA have given you an option. The DVSA do say it's an option. You can go on to what they call a trainee license. It's not compulsory, but I think you would struggle, most people would struggle not to, in missing out on this valuable last section. In order to do a trainee license, you have, in order to teach people for money, you have to go on the trainee license, and we'll sort all that out for you, etc. In fact, we even include it on most of our courses for people, so I think it's so important. It is possible to take a member of family, the DVSA do say, or a friend, but that's fraught with problems. They end up arguing you don't have the proper relationship. If you're on a trainee license, you will probably have a selection of pupils, and with your trainer you will probably discuss who would be the best pupil to take on that test. You'll choose one who won't be too difficult, but at the same time will be a bit challenging. So not your worst and not your best pupil. Also, your part 2 test is, we don't know what time it's going to be, and it's great to have a selection of pupils to find one who can fit in with you, etc. If you do go the route where you decide to just teach friends and family for free, don't forget you will need to have dual controls, a car, the insurance, and all the necessary stuff to do that, etc. When you're on a training license, which we, as I said, we do recommend, DVSA require 2 routes. One is 20% of your training is supervised by your trainer, and 2, you do an additional 20 hours of training, 5 of which must be in car. We normally pick the latter one. The second one will be doing an additional 20 hours, etc. And that is with your training. When you're on a franchise with us, when you actually are working with us, etc., we do not charge you for that training. It's included in your franchise fee as additional training, etc. If you need the training, then it's there, etc. It's in our interest. Okay. Something we've recently introduced is the live coaching sessions, which, we've been asked about this for some time. I'm aware of the fact that we've now got a school which is growing from Stanton, Portsmouth, right the way down to the tip of Cornwall, all the way up into Bristol, etc. So we've given an opportunity now of, we're going to run probably 3 sessions a month, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. It gives people an idea to jump on one of them at least. I'd love you to come on all of them. You can come on every single one of them. The idea being that during these sessions, they won't be more than about 40 minutes. You can jump on and you can ask a question if you've got a question, and you can share it with other people. I'm hoping to have other trainers on board as well, experienced trainers who will be answering the questions, and you can share experiences, etc. And a host of trainers and myself will help you with the problem, etc. You can also listen to other people's problems. I attend these coaching sessions for business summits and business meetings I do, and it's amazing how often I think, do you know what, I have that, yeah, I understand that, and I learn more from that, and I'm looking at them becoming a great complement to the training course. Okay, well, that's the DTE training course to become a driving instructor, is what we offer. It is comprehensive. I think it's absolutely unique. I certainly don't know of anybody offering the live coaching sessions, and certainly not with a host of trainers and the thing that you'll get with us, etc. So that's it. Hopefully I'll see you on a coaching session at some point, etc. There we go. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Happy teaching.